The League of the Genuine, the only show on the planet, is back, and this is your host, Fred Mwema. Every Friday evening, we have a conversation about the important but often ignored subject of counterfeits. Did you know today is the World Food Rights Day? Do you call it World Food Safety Day? World Food Safety Day. Did you know that? Do we have any media, any report out there that you have seen this week indicating that there is an issue with food safety and that the world comes together to celebrate? Did we celebrate it as Uganda? Have we celebrated it as Africa? We are here to discuss counterfeits, contamination in food. And we have none other than Agnes Chirabo, Executive Director of Food Rights Alliance, to help break down this important subject for us. Agnes, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Council. It's a pleasure to be here. And hello, our viewers. Hope all is well.
You are a great lady. Today has been your day. You have been attending a national event at Africana Hotel, but you still made it this time. What drives you? Why are you so passionate about this? And what is Food Rights Alliance about?
Food Rights Alliance,
as I have my food, by the way. Do you eat plantain? We have some plantain here.
I do.
Yes.
One, it's a traditional food. Two, it is traditionally prepared because food is not about filling your stomach. It's also about identity. It's also about heritage. Even as you're eating your plantain, it must be singing some music to you. There is so many things that you're connecting with.
The best banana in the world. This is banana from Uganda.
I'm telling you. I'm a food and agriculture policy analyst, and my organization that employs me for now is Food Rights Alliance. We are driven by a vision to live at least one day in a world free from hunger and malnutrition. I'm telling you, so many visions are not achievable, but this particular vision is achievable. And if there is any country where it is possible, it is actually Uganda.
But I was looking at the stats. 700 million people in the world are hungry. How is that possible?
And of those, 10 million plus of those are in severe food insecurity in Uganda. You asked me about my drive, my motivation, my inspiration. I owe it all to my mother who raised me. I grew up in a traditional society where my mother, and I'm lucky, she's called the Princess Beautiful Nalong. She's the most beautiful woman. She raised us in a traditional community, but one of the things that I vividly remember, how to treat food, how to respect food, and not only food on the plate like you're seeing this plantain, but also the means of its production, how to handle her hoe. And she would tell us, you cannot be too tired to hide your hoe in the garden. It is because of that hoe that you're eating. So how do you go to bed and for it you leave it on duty in the garden? You have to carry it home and you have to keep it clean. You know, as a princess, she would tell us she doesn't eat burnt food, she doesn't eat half-cooked food, she doesn't eat logged food, waterlogged food, because she's a princess, she's a royal. The food must be clean. You must all sit around it and humble yourselves. We grew
That
up.
was the time of your mom. Now, we are living in a world where food security, food sovereignty,
Yes.
food safety
Yes.
is an everyday problem. We have in the world, I was looking at the report of WHO, 500,000 people in the world, 500,000 people die from food contamination, food poisoning, whatever it is.
Surely. And same applies here.
Can you explain the theme for the world? You called it World?
The World Food Safety Day.
How has the celebration of this day today helped to reverse this trend of food contamination and counterfeits?
Actually, we haven't celebrated, we have only commemorated. There is nothing much to celebrate and go home partying about when we talk about food safety. And you're asking me, the theme of today, which is about food standards, is health lives. And I'm telling you, that is where the theme of today connects well with how my mother raised us.
What
up.
was the theme of today?
Food standards, health lives. Meaning that less the food standards, the impact is obvious on the health and the lives of the people. And I'm telling you how the problem is actually from what you have just said, that thinking that the values and the behaviors and the good conduct and the ethics and the integrity about food ended with the generations of our mothers inculcating those values into us. That is where the actual problem comes from. People thinking that we are going to live in a world where there are human beings that do not value, do not have ethics, do not have behaviors that actually respect and honor humanity. Because if you don't do that to this plantain, if I have abused this plantain, I have abused you, cancer, because you are what you eat. So since when did we think that we moved on so much in life that to hell with the values and the good practices and the good conduct and the ethics and the integrity?
But we are modernizing.
What are you modernizing?
We have become modern. We go to KFC. We have plastics to carry our food around. We are modern.
Actually, you have modernized in bad behavior, in primitivity, in criminal activities, in murder. You know, do you know that once you injure and contaminate food, you're a criminal of some sort because you're murdering somebody's life. So what kind of modernization is that? What kind of modernization that is eating plastic? What kind of modernization that is drinking plastic? Do you know drinking plastic, drinking water from plastic containers? I rather stay traditional.
Tell
and
us about
rural.
that.
Yes.
You mean that these companies that are bottling drinking water or mineral water, you mean they are causing a problem?
Definitely, yes. They are causing a problem to our environment to start with, but they are also causing a problem to the people that are consuming that water from plastic.
What is the problem?
You know, you can't compare those plastics. You know, the plastics have chemicals that and you know, unfortunately, these things you call modern, you on the same dispenser, you know, and it is dispensing cold and hot. And you know the impact of hot or heat on plastics. The chemicals within the plastic get into the food, and in this case, the water. I see people in very beautiful hotels putting their mugs and coffee under the dispensers, and I'm
to get hot.
To get hot water and take tea. There are dangerous chemicals in plastics. It is known. That's why we are condemning people that are using polythene bags in steaming food, in cooking food. Plastic and heat do not work together. So you can't compare your modern life, council, with our traditional fathers who are drinking pot water. And sometimes there is somebody who is masquerading, bottling pot water. I'm not going to discuss it on this.
Somebody is bottling pot water.
I don't know, and that must be a flavor. That's why our forefathers lived longer, because the pot itself is minerals. It's natural. It's not melting. It's not dissolving into the water.
It's made from earth material.
Yes,
not
earth
processed.
And natural materials, not processed,
Clay.
Not melted plastic. And you call that modern? I think I
so
rather
you are telling the viewers that go back to the traditional ways of storing and cooling your water in a pot.
And I'm telling you, Africa, we had knowledge, and that knowledge was superior. And because it was not corporate controlled, then people called it all sorts of names, old-fashioned, devoic, satanic, barbaric, and what, to such that we throw it away and
adopt
and become
the
clients
new technology that we pay for.
We become clients, we become customers of their technology. Africa, we had a lot to offer. And I'm telling you, comes a time you go to some European families, it is rare to find a pot, and those that have pot water in their houses, it's premium. But now for us here, we said we modernize. What did you modernize? What did you modernize? Our forefathers used to eat meat.
But Agnes, if you are talking about meat,
Yes.
This is a show on food and counterfeits.
Yes.
Are you saying that the traditional way, for example, preserving meat,
Yes.
roasting it, and putting salt, is superior to the deep freezer?
Let me tell you, even in these countries of ours, like
Tell us.
like us in Kampala here, or even in Uganda, none of us qualifies to have a deep freezer that is sufficient to keep your meat and your frozen food safe. Because this country suffers notoriously power surges. Some power surges are so noted that you cannot notice them by the eye, but the freezing system will recognize it. And
it will.
And foods like fish will automatically start going bad. That's why many people suffer food poison when they eat fish in these high places. It's because those people are keeping that food thinking that it is under frozen conditions that do not meet the standards. The power surges here, the power supplies are really very bad. So don't talk
when the fish, when the power interruption in the cold storage goes in, you get salmonella. What do you get?
No, you don't get salmonella per se, but for this case of power surges, it has already, the food is not in balance. The food composition is not in balance because of that power surge alone. So here in Africa, perhaps in Uganda, we don't qualify to say, oh, I keep my food in the deep freezer. You're not keeping anything like food in that deep freezer. You're actually keeping poison, unless if you have a power stabilizer. How many households
An inverter, the power stabilizer, a generator,
the inverter,
solar.
All of those ones cause surges. You've seen the generator. Those are power surges. But the power stabilizers maintains and sustains a particular power supply. How many households have that?
So where should we keep the fish? Because you must give solutions. Should we smoke the fish or we avoid the fish?
We still have an opportunity in Uganda to eat fresh food. And that is why we are talking about the common user facilities.
One, you are encouraging
people, eat your food.
Buy the fish from the lakeside.
Eat your food
today.
Yes. Or if not that, preserve in a manner that is not going to cause turbulences within the physiological makeup of that food.
How do you preserve?
Like our great fathers, you've said, they would smoke their meat dry. And that is why they were capable of eating meat throughout. And they were not having all of these things that it's my arthritis, it's my CG what. It is about the kind of food we eat and how we eat it. And in the names of disguising ourselves as modernization when we didn't modernize in anything.
What you are saying is that if we are talking about counterfeits in food and food contamination, you are saying that we in our respective homes might actually get food in a genuine form.
Yes.
But we make it a counterfeit at home through the handling.
Yes.
Storage.
The preparation.
And
the actual eating. Today being World Food Safety Day, let me use this opportunity to tell our viewers that food gets contaminated along the entire journey it moves. Before it was produced, perhaps what was the fertilizer, what was the soil quality, what was the water quality that you used in the production. During production, we know farmers that apply chemicals. If the pest doesn't die, they double the measurements and so on. They even make concoctions and so many of such things. We know people who are injecting antibiotics and growth hormones to the birds.
And don't allow for the withdrawal period.
Yes.
They just sell the eggs or the milk.
You know, when your cow, when the veterinary doctor fails to treat your cow and realizes that the chances of it surviving are fewer, he advises you to slaughter it. You mean you have never heard of that?
Yes.
So food gets contaminated throughout the whole journey. Sometimes the farmer can't be very careful and gives you good quality and safe food. But the transporter...
The post-harvest handling.
Yes, but even the drying... We have all moved along Tilinyi, ministers and everybody
they put the maize and whatever on the tarmac.
The road, and nobody has stopped to reprimand.
And this is the tarmac, the vehicles are passing.
Yes, the zinc, the lead,
petroleum,
the what, and all of that.
It's all going on the tarmac.
It is all going into the food.
The sulfur in the petroleum.
Everything, the lead, mention all sorts of chemicals, the dust and what, then the cows, the pigs, everything takes a share of that food.
Agnes, we need to take a break, but you are like a messenger of doom or something, because
No.
I want to enjoy my plantain here.
I will not talk about your plantain.
You will not
Please
talk about
eat
my
it.
plantain. Let's take a break. We are back with the second segment of the League of the Genuine Conversation. Me, your host again, with a special guest here, Agnes Chirabo, Food Rights Alliance. World Food Safety Day. We are eating plantain here. You are telling me that the whole value chain, including the eating,
has the potential because
of counterfeiting.
Of counterfeiting.
How do I counterfeit? I'm eating my plantain, you're eating yours.
You know, many of us, many of us wash our hands after we have eaten.
So the first form,
the food may have been safe,
of contaminating the food
is your hands that pushes
is
it
washing
in the mouth.
after.
Meaning, you pushed the food down. It may have survived, it may have been clean and safe, but your hands while you're pushing it in the mouth is the one that contaminated it.
Or the fork that you use.
All of the plate, all of the saucepan, all of the ingredients that you used in preparing it. That's why I'm very happy about this.
This is roasted.
It is roasted. I have some questions behind it, but it is better because I know there is no oil.
So you are against fried
if
gonja.
It was fried,
in the hotels they have fried gonja.
I need to ask so much. Was the oil recycled? What kind of oil was it? Was it clean? You know, how many hotels can afford using virgin oil in their kitchen? It is damn expensive. All of us, many of us use crude oil in the names of cooking oil. Yes.
Cotton.
Crude.
Sesame produces oil.
Yes. So when we are talking about the contamination of food, it's about practices. Some are obvious, some are intentional. There are farmers who induce drying of grains and legumes to run into the market by spreading dangerous chemicals like Weedmaster. They are doing it intentionally. And
to reduce the moisture content?
No, because the maize isn't yet ready, but the market prices are too high. So they get the Weedmaster. These are chemicals, glyphosate, ingrediented chemicals, and they spread the maize and induce drying, such that they run very fast into the market. To me, those council are criminals because they are doing it with intention.
But Agnes, who regulates this sector? Because you are in private sector, I'm in private sector.
Yes.
Where do we run to?
Where we would run to, the levels of consciousness are so low. Because where production takes place down in the communities, they will run to a police station. And you know, council, what it takes to run with the case through the police system and through court. That's why this day I have labored and spent all my energy in mobilizing people to police themselves, because it is about your food, it is about your health.
Self-regulation.
Self-regulation, self-censorship, self-policing.
But self-regulation without knowledge.
That is
if people are washing their hands after eating, not before.
Not before.
So what self-regulation are you talking about?
And I think that is why I have also called on the Ministry of, I have several seeing Honorable Chris Baliomos. He's the one presiding over the Ministry of Information and the National Guidance. And I have challenged him on this World Food Safety Day to account to this country for this whole financial year, how many messages he has shunned out on food.
On national media.
As the lead of awareness creation and information and education and the national guidance. I challenged him, but I didn't condemn him if he hasn't done anything. I was asking him, the next financial year is starting, and we need the priority, because food is about not only health, it is about the lives of the people. So we are talking about counterfeiting. Some people do it with intention. Do you know how many people who boil beans using Panado? Do you know how many farmers that give pigs ARVs?
for fattening.
Yes.
There was a report actually in the papers
Do you know
that
how...
the pork in Wakiso and Kampala has the ARVs.
Yes.
And people are right now at the pork joints eating.
But
they don't read these reports.
But even if they read the reports, who knows the pig is eating? No, the pork is eating in which was from which pig of where?
Do we even have control, monitoring and evaluation of the meat?
But if the report was able to establish that the piggery in Wakiso and Mukono, the pigs are fed on ARVs, you cannot keep a pig under your bed. There is nobody who is rearing pigs under their beds.
It's in the open.
It is in the open and people are seeing this. If the report was able to capture that, why didn't we see a quarantine?
Do we have agriculture extension?
We don't.
Officers?
We have extension officers. They are very few. You know that we revitalized the public extension system in the financial year 2014-2015. And I recall around that time, Cabinet resolved that the Ministry of Agriculture recruits 5,000 extension workers by the financial year 2016-2017. Tell you what? We only recruited 3,778 extension workers then. We didn't even hit the mark.
What was
of
the mark?
5,000. 5,000, that's what cabinet
For the whole
allowed.
country?
Yes. But by then, because it was a start, by then we had 112 districts. Today we are having 146 districts, 10 cities, I don't know how many municipalities, so many of those administrative structures we have created. And we didn't recruit. So we didn't recruit the 5,000, and last week, 2 weeks ago, I was told that quite a good number of them have retired. So we could be now counting around 3,400. But the number wouldn't have been the problem. We have even done something very terrible. The next financial year 2023-2024, government in its own wisdom decided to remove the extension grant at local government. That extension grant at local government council was the one that was facilitating the extension workers to ride their bikes, fuel them, go and reach out to the farmers and ensure that the farmers are doing what they are doing rightly.
Correct farming practices.
Collect to
use
adhere,
of chemicals.
comply to the standards, comply to the quality, at least to a certain greater degree.
So you mean right now we don't have the extension workers to guide our aunties, our grandfathers?
You have the extension
gardens.
workers, but you will not see them because they are not going to walk on foot. We have one agriculture officer per sub-county.
Those are how many villages?
I don't even know. So many villages, so many households.
But he has no transport.
He has no transport, and the grant has been removed. But the wage has been maintained.
But can't the local governments, because they are allowed to raise money,
yes,
can't they raise money to pay these
but
extensions?
don't you know that when the local government raise the money,
It
they are
goes to
under
the
instruction to
consolidated
bring
fund.
it back to the consolidated fund?
So do we have a local government system then?
We are actually operating in a decentralization in a centralization. We have
so we decentralized and then we centralized.
Centralized, yes.
That's a unique system.
That is the one. We are unique in so many ways, because if you cannot produce maize that people in Southern Sudan can accept, your maize is rejected in Kenya, then you change direction, you go to Southern Sudan.
Talk about why have they, I hear their trucks stuck
they are
in a
stuck
forest
for 2
in
weeks
South
in
Sudan
Nimole.
with the maize.
Yeah, maize flour.
And because we have ever had an experience of trucks stuck on the Kenya border,
Yes.
the maize got spoiled and it was brought back to Uganda and milled and given to children in our schools.
Yes, somebody was condemning.
Tell us about South Sudan.
Somebody was condemning me because I said that we ate that condemned maize. Because if Kenya has said it is not fit for human consumption, I said that maize, just like you said, it was brought back into our system, it was milled. And you know the biggest consumers of meal in this country are our children in school.
Children. I wrote an article about it asking who will consume the maize rejected by Kenya.
They didn't answer you, but I'm here to tell you that the maize was consumed by your child in school, by our children in school.
In the porridge, in the posho meal.
Yes, and the Pan-African aflatoxin control, whatever in Africa, wrote a report and said our maize has 65 parts per billion levels of aflatoxin. And
higher than the level
acceptable.
even acceptable for animals.
Let me tell you.
I was there when Professor Kaya
yes,
was launching the national anti-aflatoxin
yes,
something before COVID.
But let me tell you this. Once the food is condemned not fit for human consumption, it is automatically not fit for animal consumption. And this is another
No,
error
but there's
we
a
always
belief
commit.
that the chicken and so on can eat those dirty things.
That is why our eggs are condemned and our milk is condemned, because the same traces of aflatoxin that was in the maize is traced in the milk, it is traced in the eggs.
And the meat.
It is traced in the chicken
also.
thighs.
The chicken wings.
The chicken wings and the breasts. There are traces of aflatoxin in there. So that's why we say if it is not fit for human consumption, it is not fit for animal. But you know, there are those practices that people without intention, like I've said, the food, our maize. Today, what farmers do, they realize that the issue of harvesting and you carry the maize home for drying was eating into the margin. So what they do, they take the maize shellers on the farm. So they shell the maize on the farm when the moisture content is above 25%, and bag, and then ferry on the trucks.
But how do you shell, how do you bag the natural processes? Because remember, they are organisms, microbes,
yes,
and they will all go in there.
Yes.
How are you protecting it? Do you transport it in a cold storage?
No, they
it's
are
exposed to heat.
You know, like all of us have been in the villages. There is that time when we say maize is dry. It is ready for harvesting from the farm. But actually it isn't. That's why I've said it appears dry, but the moisture content is above 25. Okay? It's still raw inside, and then you bag it. Okay? You bag it and then trucks and move into the stores, into the mill, and blah blah and so on. But let us also use this space to talk about the fraudulent acts that people do in the food system.
I think
acts.
we need to take a break. I would need to talk about the fraudulent acts. We need to talk about the health implications of this food contamination and economic implication of this food contamination. We're back with the third and last segment of the League of the Genuine Conversations here with a firebrand, Agnes Chirabo. We are enjoying banana plantain. I think this is the sweetest banana. Maybe Brazil has better, or it is us. Where are the best bananas coming from? Uganda, I think, is the second biggest producer? Or?
It is not about producing.
No.
And this is where people go wrong. And I've talked to scientists that the white have not understood that in Africa we don't eat volumes. We eat so many things. We eat identity, we eat heritage, we eat aroma, we eat taste. You know, we eat so many things. So when I'm eating this plantain, even the aroma enough, I'm consuming it. So for you,
it's part of the experience.
It is part of the food, is a whole experience. And for them, they sit behind the microscopes and think that food is about filling our stomach. For us, we eat more than this. We even eat tradition.
Tell me.
You eat kalo and that.
Is there a contamination or counterfeiting of banana?
Where in this particular one we are eating?
No.
Yes.
Generally.
Of course, yes, there is.
How?
There is. There is a lot of research that has been going on banana. But thanks to nature, the very conversation I've been talking to researchers and telling them, one, you're going to manipulate and come up with a new whatever variety of banana, the adoption is going to be zero. Don't you remember those huge varieties, the fears and all of that? The inventors of those fears thought that we are hungry, we shall eat them. Even when we are hungry, we never ate them.
So you're saying...
We went back to our traditional varieties.
That there's manipulation?
Yes.
Of the natural genetics? Or,
yes.
They don't have genetics. The natural composition, whatever it is?
They do. They do have genetics.
These bananas?
Yes, plants have genetics. The genetic composition.
So people, are you saying that genetically modified foods are counterfeit, according to you?
It's a manipulation of our food. It is a manipulation of our food system. And to make matters worse, people come to our Nachitembe and manipulate it and go and apply and register their rights on our food. So they have done two wrongs on us. One, playing around with our food, but then two, also condemning us if we use it
to
and
buy
yes
from them instead of the seed
and if we
reproducing naturally.
And if we don't do that, then we are criminalized. The fraudulent actions, that is what we had promised viewers.
So in banana, you're saying that there's manipulation of the original seed.
Like they manipulated the chicken.
But the idea is to create disease-resistant bananas, drought-resistant bananas, which is actually a good factor in improving food production and therefore assuring our food security. These are the arguments I hear. Don't they make sense to you?
They would have made sense if other questions that I've put before these people have competently been responded to.
What are those questions?
What is the problem? Our food insecurity here is not because of the variety of banana that is being planted. It isn't.
It's low production.
It isn't low production. We all know that in one part of this region, you can hardly find a banana, and in another part of the same country, banana is rotting. And this is the biggest hindrance of our production and productivity. Don't tell me that the people in Karamoja are starving because of the absence of food in this country. It isn't. We all know that whereas the traditional or the long-horned cows and our local breeds of cows are condemned for the low yields of milk, and that we need these cows that sleep in beds with the music running, they do only one thing, eating and sleeping. And they really eat and drink like 4 jerrycans of water a day. You're comparing it with a cow that moves from Kampala to Najana Nkombi.
Every day, looking for food.
Look, the herdsman and the cow, both are not sure that they will eat.
So how can the milk production be the same?
The only opportunity it has to drink water is when it rained and there is some water trough along the road. And when it takes the first sip, the herdsman hits it with a stick to go back because it is coming tonight. And you're comparing it. But that is not the issue that I wanted to talk about. The issue I wanted to talk about is that whereas their milk yields are low, do you know that it is only in this country where milk is cheaper than drinking water?
Are you serious?
It is you go to the pastoralist communities.
In Uganda?
In Uganda here, the
milk is cheaper than water.
Is cheaper than water.
Then why do we have malnourished children?
Yeah, and it is because of the governance challenges. And when we talk about the issues of food governance and food justice, I think that will be another discussion on this space some other time. Those are injustices.
So milk is cheaper than water. How is this?
Among pastoral communities, the ones that are producing least amounts of milk and their animals are condemned. A liter of milk goes for 1,000. And here, half a liter bottle of drinking water, mineral water, is 1,000. So it is cheaper to drink milk in those areas than drinking mineral water. So what is the problem? Is the problem the cow that the farmer
banana,
is keeping, or the banana, or we just have to deal with the injustices. By the way, the desire to transform our food system should not make our food system homogeneous, because then it is taking away the sovereignty of our government, but also the sovereignty of our people. Our food is our identity, and somebody wants all of us to eat spaghetti. No, that's an injustice. Because
it is God given.
Because much as we are all human beings, you can look at somebody and say this one is an Indian, but we are all human beings. So why do you want to make our food system a homogeneous food system? And once it gets a challenge, the challenge spreads across. I'm against that, because it is the reason why we are having malnutrition. Making our food system homogeneous, making everybody eat maize from Moroto to Katuna.
But the argument, like I was researching on the modern chicken nowadays, the broiler.
Yeah.
And I saw that the broiler was developed a competition in the US, I think in the 1930s or 1940s, was put up to see which farmer was able to breed the biggest and best chicken. And the result was the broiler, which is about 4 times the size of the original chicken. The original chicken used to be less than a kilo. Now we have chickens of 4. Right now, the broiler population in the world at any one time is about 23 billion. But the argument can be that even if that was a manipulation, it has increased access to food, quality food. So any corner that you go...
Bring the word quality later. You told your line of increasing food.
People can now eat chicken. A boda man can eat chicken. A taxi driver can eat chicken. A lawyer can eat chicken. We have access to food.
We have access to the chicken, but what kind of chicken?
Tell me about it.
And as we mark this day, we have been telling people that as you have pleasure in the mouth, have safety in your mind.
As you have pleasure in the
mouth,
have safety in your mind.
In your mind.
So
the chickens that we are celebrating, that everybody is eating chicken, true. And the chicken is on every street, which is true. But it is pumped with growth hormones. Do you see our kids growing breasts at 7 years? Do you know what I was doing when I was 7 years old? We used to bathe from the compound.
In the open.
In the open. We would play naked and run around, and nobody was concerned. Our children are growing breasts at 7 years. Is that what we want? Because of the growth hormones. We are having antibiotics resistance because of the antibiotics that is being pumped into this chicken that you're celebrating. Let me tell you, this country, for instance, the case of Uganda, we have ugly statistics. The other day you went and told us that 10 million people in Uganda in the year 2022 suffered severe food insecurity. Severe food insecurity. In this very same country is where we are seeing...
That we are food basket.
You can't
for the region.
You can't
we supply pineapples to Kenya.
What are you supplying when your maize flour is impounded in Nimole? And the question council is...
And the reason why refugees always like to come to Uganda is because we have abundant food.
But also you need to look at the reason why we welcome them. That's a discussion of another day. Today we came to discuss the fraud. So, our neighbors in the region are raising flags, and this should be an issue of national importance. That you're masquerading and presenting yourselves as a food basket in the region, but you're becoming a basket of poison to the region. And because we are a bit more serious than you, we are keeping you with your poison. And you see, our maize, those trucks were impounded in Nimuli. It is coming to 3 weeks, and everybody is talking about it as a mama. And
there's no national uproar.
There is no national, yes.
But there's uproar on the iron sheets, for example, but no uproar on the food contamination.
Yes, it's not there. So my dear, as you celebrate that piece of chicken, it is good to have chicken. I agree with you, but I'm also here to assure you that chances are over 75% that you're not eating chicken, you're eating antibiotics, you're eating growth hormones, you're eating aflatoxins.
Should we leave chicken?
And instead of eating poison, let me tell you, if it is not safe, it is not food. So don't celebrate the chicken when you're ending up in hospital.
These days, bacterial infection. It's not malaria.
It is bacterial
infection. We used to get malaria for us.
Yes.
But these days, they check no malaria.
No malaria, no malaria.
No malaria coming from?
Be my guest. You are what you eat. And you're resistant because you have over-consumed antibiotics. In milk, in meat products, in poultry, and so on and so forth.
And I read a report that if a mother, a breastfeeding mother,
yes,
eats grain
that
or
has
beans
aflatoxins.
that has aflatoxins, the mother passes the
aflatoxins
to
same as
the baby.
Same as the cow does through the milk, and then it gets into your cup.
And these aflatoxins have active carcinogens that cause cancer.
Definitely.
So you see a relationship between the food contamination and the cancer cases.
And the 3,700 liver cancer cases in Uganda registered annually, where we spend over $77 million
on treatment. Most of which is development assistance.
I wouldn't care.
But we lose about 20,000 people to cancer.
Yes.
The various cancers, including Burkitt's lymphoma, which comes from children taking fake antimalarials. Those children who grow with, that form of cancer. The fake antimalarial leads to a form of cancer.
Do you know that I went to a market in Soroti? There is a famous community market called the Arapai. It runs every Thursday. And I find the hawkers of malaria drugs
in the market.
They are having tables like this
in the sun,
selling like they are selling earrings
or grasshoppers,
something like that. But we are talking about fraudulent acts. Do you know these people who had formalin to our grasshoppers
and to
during
the milk?
November and to the milk? The women along the roads where they are selling milk in jerrycans. Those women
Masaka Road.
That's in Barara, Masaka. There are no animals to hawk milk. It's beyond the Masaka. Yes, they always have certain drops they have in their aprons or whatever. That's the formalin.
So they add the formalin
in the milk, and you run with the milk, a jerrycan of milk to Kampala.
Drive all the way to Kampala, and your children are coming, mommy, yes. And you give them.
And do you know how many people as we speak, there are flampens on every street in the evening in Kampala, in every small city or urban area. They are making chips and very nice looking chicken. That oil they add transformer oil.
True.
And they do it with intention.
Why transformer oil? It cooks better, or
no? The melting of the it controls the speed. It doesn't run out very fast.
So
like
you
the
can
normal oil.
serve with several portions.
Yes, you have.
So Food Rights Alliance, what are you telling our viewers to do about food safety and avoiding contamination? Any ideas on what we should do?
So many people do not want to stand behind me when I'm on a cafeteria serving food. It's because of the questions I ask. And one time, unconsciously I asked these questions. And I was outside the country, and the gentleman, like 7 people behind me, said, that one must be from Uganda. If you hear somebody asking questions about food, must be coming from Uganda.
Why?
I think it's because people know that we are endowed with food. But apparently here, people ask one question about food. It is one question that informs their decision, the price. That's why people go and buy expired foods in the supermarkets. They only look at the price tag. And the supermarket guys defraud us. They go and change the expiry. Yes. But anyway, even if they don't change, how many people look
don't
at
read.
Them? People read the prices.
The warnings are there, but they don't read.
People read the prices. I'm here to tell the viewers that the food standard is about your health, it is about your life. Let us learn, let us inculcate in ourselves a culture, a quality culture that checks. Let us start by doing that minimum check, by asking certain questions.
What are the questions we
must
ask?
If it was a chicken, you walk into a restaurant, don't ask in Kokoya maker how much is chicken. Even go ahead and ask, what kind of chicken did you cook? And genuinely, those people will tell you. What
did you feed the chicken on?
They may not know because we don't have a traceability system. But of course, there are people who they are food vendors that have specialized in cooking certain foods. I have a fish vendor in my small trading center going home. I stop by him and he comes to my car and says, Madam, today the fish I have, you will not take it. But he's there. Do you think he tells everybody? Otherwise he wouldn't have
What are the differences in the fish?
Because
Tell us.
I don't eat farmed fish in Uganda.
Farmed fish is a problem.
I don't. I don't.
Eat from the lake.
I want captured fish. Reason being, aquaculture in this country
Farmed fish.
is if kwara.
The fish is fed on
Anything. So many things I don't want to say when I have my plantain.
so farmed fish.
Yes,
is a trap.
including fecal matters, excretions.
They just throw in the pond.
They just throw in the pond. I hear if you, I don't want, some of these things, Council, we are talking about. There is somebody who didn't know them and is instead going to start doing them tomorrow. So I don't eat farmed fish, and that is me. It is incumbent on the fish farmers to convince us
that the
and
product
people
they
like
are
you,
rearing.
yes, that they are right.
We have to stop here, Agnes. I know that we can talk about food justice, we can talk about food sovereignty, we can talk everything. But we need you to say bye-bye to our viewers.
As I say bye for now, the word of encouragement I have to is what I told Council. Have pleasure in your mouth, but have safety and quality in your mind. And please remember, if it is not safe, it is not food.
That is Agnes Chirabo, Food Rights Alliance. If you're new here, this is the only show on the planet where we discuss matters to do with counterfeits which pervade every aspect of our life. Today, we have been talking about food contamination and counterfeits. We hope you have been able to learn a thing or two about food safety. The message here is it is your responsibility to make sure that what you eat is safe, because you are what you eat. We appreciate you sharing, subscribing, liking, and putting that notification to watch out for the next program that we keep on producing. We would like to sign off by asking you, as always, don't be fake, buy and sell genuine. Wow.